What up, everybody? It's PJ here with Excabandai. We got another Madden video, and we're going to talk about how fun the last couple weeks have been as Packer fans here. But I'm going to start off. I just realized I was doing that for all things. We're going to start off talking with the Packers Vikings recap, since unfortunately last week's audio kind of got messed up when we were recording it, and didn't have time to re-record before the trip up to the Bears game at Lambeau. So first, let me.
That's not good. That unnecessary juke. he was like almost off to the races, and then he just did a circle button university and got tackled.
See if I can get a good start to this game. What?
What?
What? Alright.
Excuse me?
Alright then. That was one of the weirder things I've seen in Madden so far. But I guess this is starting out when we're talking about this video. Yeah, so that Packers Vikings game. That's a heck of a way to book in 2023. Wins against the Vikings. Kind of started the must-win season for the Packers there, and they're going into Minnesota 2-point, underdogs, and instead they came in and just straight up dominated Minnesota to get to 8-8 on the year.
Yeah, it was great work.
And then thanks to Pittsburgh earlier in the day too, they knocked off Seattle, and suddenly Green Bay's in control of their own destiny over there at 8-8 as the 7th seed. So shout out to Mike Tomlin too, man. 17 straight non-losing seasons. That's hard to believe.
It is ridiculous. During the McCarthy era of the Packers, he was our coach for 13 seasons, and we had 3 losing seasons. Tomlin has been a coach for 17 straight seasons, and 8-8 is his worst record.
Yeah, it's insane. Hell, even under before now. We just had a losing season last year at 8-9. So
yeah, 5 years as a coach, and we've already had a losing season.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Pittsburgh's over there with the ghost of quarterbacks. Not necessarily like passive line players, but just like guys that aren't that good or anything, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I know this isn't Steelers channel, and we're not going to get too far off on the Steelers tangent, but I mean, the best quarterback that they've had in recent memory was Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
And his last couple of years, I mean, he was a shell of his former self. They continue to win anyway. Yeah. He's been retired for a couple of years, and they're continuing to win anyway. Tomlin just wheels that team to victory, and I don't know how he does it.
Let's see. Got a good play over there to Musgrave. Hopefully he'll be putting up some snaps this week.
So yeah, should be a little bit healthier after the coming back from that injury, freak injury.
Definitely. Yeah. So getting back on the Vikings game, my main concern going into that game, I think, was pretty much the same as everybody else's after the 3 games before that. Quarterbacks were coming in, putting up 4 days against the Packers, to the point where I even joked before that game, congrats to Hall for them, that he was about to have the next career game in the list. But it was nice to see the defense just decide, no, that's not going to happen.
Not today.
Let's go, Romeo. I didn't even get to see the 6th celebration.
Yeah, because it cut to the penalty.
But yeah, I mean, Hall didn't even make it to the second half of that game, so we got benched for Mullins. I saw Rob Domofsky had a tweet after the game on that one from ESPN Stats and Info, basically saying that Green Bay just blitzed Hall on half of his dropbacks. And on half of those dropbacks, he responded by only going 2 of 4, threw an INT, took 2 of his 3 sacks on the night. And then on top of that, we got the strip sack from Preston Smith over there that got recovered by Carl Brooks. And Minnesota in general was just absolutely destroyed. They only got like 82 yards of offense that entire half. So that was nice. Second half really didn't go any better either once they did switch Mullins. They had, they didn't turn it over, but, you know, they got one more sack against them. Their only touchdown of the night ended up on that, you know, freaking muffed punt that set them up on 1st and goal to start with. So, kind of expected to, you know, get at least some points there.
Yeah, in that situation.
Oh,
what?
Let's go.
That is the weirdest fumble I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Then again, that first pass attempt they had for the pass attempt I've ever seen. So this game is just weird. It's like he fumbled during the handoff and just slammed the ball into the ground.
I feel like the refs somehow glitched this game to still screw the lines. But
somewhere Tom Grossi smiles.
Pretty much. But yeah, so outside of that, you know, Minnesota ended up with just over 200 yards of offense on the day, only 211. Chandler was their leading rusher at like 40 yards on 10 carries. And then Justin Jefferson, he went 5 for 59, mainly because quarterback play just wasn't that good on the day. Still cost him by the damn fantasy football championship game against Joe, so congrats to Joe. Like gritted teeth right now. But you know, offensively for the Packers, shout out to the offensive line. We talked about it all the way leading up into that game and everything, where you know, the Vikings were big on blitzing, and you know, they didn't necessarily get to the quarterback too often, but the offensive line made sure that stayed the case because Minnesota didn't get a sack on Jordan Love despite blitzing him like, I think it was like 3/4 of his dropbacks or something like that. And then,
well, they're a blitz-heavy team that blitzed him extra.
Yeah. And then they ended up, I think they only got to him like twice all night with even hits, and Love just balled out, you know. I think I called for him to get like his typical 250 yards and a couple touchdowns before that game. And I mean, he delivered. He was 24, 33, 256, and 3 touchdowns. Added another touchdown on the ground, which was nice. And, you know, I didn't expect Bill Melton on that game to be the first 100-yard receiver of the season for the Packers, so that was neat. But I undersold Aaron Jones a little bit going in that one, because I said he would probably get about 70 to 80 yards against, you know, Vikings run defense. And instead he went out and got another 100-yard performance to go back-to-back performances of 100 yards. Offense in general just had a good running game. They were up to like $180 on the ground for the game. So overall, I can't complain too much. You know, I even said in that preview, I was like, my gut tells me that the defense is going to let us down, and you know, they didn't. They got the stops that they needed to, and you know, Green Bay got the win. So, what were your thoughts on that game, Rick?
Well, starting with the defense, they did what they're supposed to do. And I don't know what Joe Barry has against our division opponents. It seems to be those are the only people that he wants to actually game plan for. And then we randomly get a sprinkle here and there of game plan against someone else. But they did well at that. Granted, they didn't have Kirk Cousins. And obviously going from Cousins to Hall is a major downgrade.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, we looked pretty bad against Danny Dimes and Bryce Young and Baker Mayfield. No, Mayfield has had other games in his career that he did well, but the other 2 games were career games for those guys. The defense was just that pathetically bad. So I'm glad they showed up. You know, the interception was a little fluky, but you know, you can't control the way the ball bounces, and they took advantage of it and they got the interception. You know, they forced the fumble and strip sack. They got several sacks, lots of pressure.
Hey.
What is this guy doing?
I have no idea.
Safety.
Do the safety dance.
You know, so, you know, they came in and they did what they needed to do. And you can't fault them for that.
Yep.
Now, having said that, Mullins and Hall aren't the greatest. So, and I'm glad that they did what they were supposed to do. But this does not save your job. I hope it does.
Yeah.
3 years, this one game isn't going to change my tune.
Yeah, pretty much. But
Friendly quit.
no. You chose the Lions, you take that beat down. There, thank
you. Bye. And we will pick up our coverage in the next game.
Yep. Alright. Game number 2. And hopefully this is kind of a opponent preview of next week for the Packers in real life, but we were talking about the
Vikings.
Vikings.
The Cowboys first.
Yep. We were talking about the Vikings game, so Zach still had some points from that last game forfeited, so...
Yeah, I was cooking, and then the Lions forfeited.
Dan Campbell does not approve of that man's quit.
Not at all. So, I mean, to pick up where I left off, that pretty much covers my talking of the defense. They did their job. I'm pleased with what they did. As far as the offense goes, you did mention that Aaron Jones had over 100 yards rushing against, I think we had said they were the 5th rated defense against the run.
They were up
and, they're a team that blitzes often. Nice pass breakup. They're a team that blitzes often, and they seem to blitz at a higher rate than normal. So first, the offensive line did a great job opening up holes for Aaron Jones. On the other side of that token, Aaron Jones is a great running back, and it seems like he can always find a hole. That's what she said.
I tried not to laugh, but it was pretty funny.
And he had a great game. Especially since he's been dealing with injuries, off and on, and you had to come in and just, essentially put his mark on that game at the running back position was nice. As far as the passing game goes, offensive line, again, they did a great job blocking. I already talked about Aaron Jones. Jordan Love did a good job with his protections and picking up the blitz.
I think
this might be pick 6.
I think Purdy got absolutely rocked on the sideline. It was either Purdy or somebody else. I just watched somebody go flat on their back.
Anyway, Jordan Love did a great job of picking up the blitz pre-snap and making the adjustments he needed to with the offensive line protections and throwing into the blitz, which means that guy left his pocket and whoever he was throwing at more than likely was open. And he did a great job with that. He went 24 of 33, which is a solid completion percentage. 256 yards, 3 touchdowns. It was a great game in the air, great game on the ground. Offensive, good job.
Yeah, and then obviously with the win too, that led to everybody comparing situation from the previous season. You got Packers going into week 18, 8-8, playing a winning in game against the division rival at home. Last year it was the Lions, this year it's the Bears. Going into it, we knew that the Bears weren't the same team that we had saw back in week 1. They struggled hard during the first half. Their defense coordinator just was up and gone after like week 2 or 3. They had several
mysteriously.
Injuries. Yeah, they had several injuries and stuff too on top of it. And at one point they were like 2-7 after getting blown out by the Chargers, and I think they lost one other game right after the Chargers game, but the Chargers game was kind of the low point of all of it. So, after that whole scenario, they were sort of like how the Packers were. 5 of 7, or 5 wins in the last 7 games. They had double-digit wins against the Falcons, the Cardinals, and the Lions in that stretch. So, their defense had been a big part of that turnaround. We were talking about that. 16 interceptions over like 6 games before the Packers game. And I think they only had like 9 in their first 10 or something like that. So they ended up like, #1 run defense and yardage allowed. I think they were still like top 5 in yards per carry. Not really a whole lot of sacks on the year, but they were keeping teams from getting a lot of points near the end. So it was. I thought I had the pick.
Yeah, the Bears defense had really turned it on in the last, 7, 8 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, they got some wins. They got some blowout wins. And some of those were because the defense was just getting turnovers.
Yep.
So they'd been playing well. It definitely wasn't a rematch of Week 1 where their offense was in terrible shape, but their defense was in terrible shape, yet somehow the offense was still worse. Wait, do you have 2 people lined up outside on the receiver?
Apparently, yes. We're making sure we're not getting beat by them, apparently.
That was an interesting play that somehow worked. Anyway, so they weren't the same team that we played in Week 1. And fault the score, 17-9. Team showed up.
Yeah, I was going to say, going into it, too, not only was the defense big for the Bears, but their offense was starting to get a little bit better, too. You have DJ Moore over there with a career year, 1,300 yards receiving one season. The offense line had started to get healthier, although they kind of took a hit with Lucas Patrick and going on IR before the game. I think it was like December was the first time that they even had the same offensive line combination for 3 straight games.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Nice. Yeah, it was they were banged up on the offensive line for a good portion of the season. And Khalil Herbert had just had back-to-back 100-plus yard games.
Yeah, and I mean,
on top of the Fields to Moore show.
Yeah, I mean, in general, too, you look at the rushing stats on the season, the Bears were like top 5 and 10 in almost every major rushing category. I think even against the Cardinals, they had like a 250 rushing yard performance that day. So, I mean, they were looking better. The big knock, kind of historically, going to that game was how does Fields look against Packers, because as a starter, he had been 0 for 5. I mean, blew up that play. But he completed like around, I think it was like 63% of his passes, something like that. But he had less than 1,000 yards passing.
Actually, 69%.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, he had like less than 1,000 yards passing in those 5 games. Only 4 touchdowns, but 7 interceptions. Did get a couple of rushing touchdowns and was a little under 300 yards rushing during that time frame. But you kind of wondered, like, is he going to have extra motivation? Because Carolina had just clinched the number 1 seed, or not number 1 seed, number 1 draft pick for the Bears. So, they could be drafting his replacement next season. And, there'd be extra motivation there and stuff.
First of all, slight correction. I thought you were talking about his game against us.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the first five weeks of the season, he was flirting with the 50s and low 60s completion percentage.
Gotcha.
As far as our game goes, he really didn't have a horrible game stat-wise. It was 11 for 16, which is 69% completion percentage. Nice. No touchdowns, 148 yards. His yards per attempt was not far behind Love's, because he attempted half the passes and he threw for slightly less than half the yards. However, watching him play the game, he took 5 sacks. Those are all on him because there were a few of them where the D-line just blew that play up from the snap.
Yeah.
But watching him play, it didn't look like he was a good quarterback that just got, held down in attempts. He looked like a guy struggling. he didn't have a whole lot of big pass plays. I think the longest one was at 1 which is 33 yards.
Yeah, busted cover.
And he did have another big play to commit. Those two alone were 60 yards. That was 60 of his 148 were on 2 plays. And he only completed 11 passes because he only attempted 16. He didn't look like the franchise guy. But if you compare him to Love's stats, as far as like yards per attempt and things like that, wasn't that far behind. Those 5 sacks killed him. I think at least 3 of those drives ended directly because of sacks. Essentially making it impossible for them to get the next first down. So they ended up punting or kicking a field goal.
Yeah, it was something crazy like that. Like,
yeah,
it was basically every time that. Whoop. Yeah, I was like pick, and then I was like overrun it, and like Peter saved me. But yeah, I mean, like you said, the Packers got the 5 sacks on them. They held him also to just under 30 yards of rushing on the day, if I remember correctly. So it was kind of.
Fields was at 27. But on top of that, I mentioned that Khalil Herbert was off the back-to-back 100-plus yard performances. He only had 28 yards on 12 carries.
Yeah, like they clamped down on the running game. I know the Bears were moving a little bit at times because they kept crossing the 50, but then it was just like all of a sudden Green Bay would clamp down. You get the 5 sacks. They had to basically settle for field goals when they were still close enough, and then when they weren't close enough, it was punt time. So. I mean, it was like good enough for the defense on the day. I mean, and I'll gladly take that because when you need a dub like that to hold your rival to 9 points, that's a good showing.
Yep, and it definitely goes back to my other point where Joe Barry just seems to have something against the divisional opponents, and the Packers defense generally does okay against them. There have been a few bad games, particularly against the Vikings, but I don't know what it is. He has a game plan for the divisional opponents. I just wish he had one for everyone else too.
I mean, who doesn't hate the Vikings and the Bears enough to get up for that game?
Here we go.
But yeah, I mean, offensively too. Jordan Love, like you started to say, have yourself a day, man. Like that was probably his best performance so far in the green and gold. 27 of 32, 316, 2 touchdowns. Probably could have had a couple more, but a couple drops. So, I mean, that sucked. But Aaron Jones, again, letting him cook. 3rd straight 100-yard game. He had 22 carries for 111 yards. Also added 30 receiving yards on 5 more catches.
And those runs on the ground, like, he was fighting.
Yeah.
Like, the last carry he had that sealed the game, I think he got hit about 5 yards from the first down marker, and he bounced off the defender and continued fighting and drug them to a first down.
Yeah, that man was not going to be denied in that game.
Like, he was up for that game. I don't know if a Bears player said something, about his mom. I have no idea, but he was mad. He was playing mad.
I mean, man carries the G well, so gotta love Aaron Jones. And then, on top of him, too, just to kind of finish off the offense, Reed had his first career 100-yard game. Mostly thanks to that big 59-yard catch where we found out after the fact that he wasn't even supposed to be a passing option on the play.
Yeah, he was just a decoy. He's supposed to open up space in the flat, and he just kept leaking upfield, and Love was like, you know what? I like your style. Bam. 59-yard play.
Yep, and then you had Wicks over there getting a couple touchdown catches. Bo Melton also had a good performance again. So altogether, that brought up another 400-yard offensive day, 432 to be exact, and probably the most dominating 17-point performance you'll ever see from an offense, mainly because of the missed field goal and a couple drop touchdowns.
And running out of time.
Yeah, running out of time at that one point. That sucked.
Yep. That should have at least been a field goal attempt given the situation and everything. So,
yeah.
I mean, they left somewhere around, what did you say, 14 or so points on the board?
Yeah, give or take.
Give or take, somewhere in there. So, not a not the best day on the offense as far as converting their drives into points, but they didn't punt. You know, Love only had 5 incompletions, and 2 of those were dropped touchdowns, or potential touchdowns, I should say.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was almost clinical. Like, you know, PJ and I, you know, we're at the game. We're sitting, well, not even sitting. We were standing most of the time in the stands, and I remember looking at him and going, I don't remember the last pass that was incomplete that Jordan Love threw.
Yeah, having to look up at the stat line to try to see, you know, oh yeah, that did happen this play or whatever. Yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I loved it. I loved watching Jordan Love just grow, and then on top of that, he gets a 4,000-yard passing season, which no Bears quarterback has ever done. So continue to troll even then too.
Also had 32 touchdown passes, which no Bears quarterback has ever done. And even if you want to be, you know, really technical, he also had 30 touchdown passes after the Vikings game, so he did get 30 in the old 16-game schedule too.
Let's see. Can I get a touchdown before halftime? But before we kind of jump on the... well, I mean, I guess I can throw a pick. 6.
It's kind of a touchdown.
If you believe. Hey, he didn't score though.
I thought that he had the angle on you, but then he circle buttoned, and well, here we are.
Yeah, man.
I'll take it.
Yeah, wasn't pretty, but that's where we're at. That should have been a field goal, though. That sucked. That was on me.
Agreed. That was on me.
Yeah. But before we jump into the Packers Cowboys preview on this one, any favorite memories from that trip?
Hearing 50, 60 plus thousand fans chanting "The Bears still suck" after the game was amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bears fans, if you happen to be watching this video, but it was pretty awesome.
It was. I think
we had a drunk Bears fan say Soldier Field sucked, and that was just amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Tried to start a fight with Packer fans, accepted his loss, and then said how bad Soldier Field sucked. And then I think one of my favorite moments too is when we did the tour on Friday when we got in and just happened to run into Leroy Butler as he was doing his tour.
Yeah, we weren't on the alumni tour, but we got to see him.
Yep. That's it.
He even waved at us, even though it didn't have to.
Yep. Also for me, Florida State fan, seeing him in person, that was pretty cool. But yeah, so we got Cowboys now, and return. Well, I guess it's not the return because we played the Cowboys last season, and it's also a road game. But Mike McCarthy, old ball coach. But yeah, we're getting to see him again, and it's kind of funny that it ends up with Dallas in the wild card round, considering how much I've talked about my hatred of the Cowboys this season on here. But that is what it is, I guess. So,
yep.
Packers end up going in this one 7 to 7.5 point underdogs, depending on where you're looking. And I'm kind of breaking what Owen Jones here. That line is kind of large, but probably kind of fair, to be honest. Cowboys are going to be the best team that we've seen this season against Green Bay, and they also haven't lost at Jared World in 16 games. I think we said it was the 2022 home opener when we were looking it up.
Yep. They're plus 22-point differential when playing at home this season.
Yeah. So,
and the Lions are the only team to keep them under 30 points scored at home. So, they have scored a ton of points at home this year.
So right now, the injury report going into it, A.J. Dillon's probably not going to be playing. He's listed as doubtful and didn't play last week either. You got Christian Watson, who's questionable still with the hamstring. He did practice this week again, so maybe we get to see him trying to stretch the defense a little bit this week.
That'd be nice.
And then unfortunately, Jair Alexander, after basically showing up randomly on the newscasters, live shoot and stuff, and getting called a fan. He goes to practice this week and ends up injuring his ankle, by just stepping on a teammate or something. So that's a tough year.
Yeah.
Those three are the only ones that are carrying the game status this week, which is better than what we normally get to see for the Packers. Cowboys are pretty healthy too. Cooper Rush is the only player that has game status for them, so backup quarterback who really cares at that point unless something happens to Dak.
Yeah.
Hey, touchdown.
Nice. I didn't see this earlier, but oh wait, no, that was actually. Ignore me.
Ignored. But yeah, I was gonna say, as a nice little transition there with the Aaron Jones touchdown. This game kind of feels like one of those games where you're just gonna let Aaron Jones cook and see what happens. When we were looking at Packers Wire from USA Today, Cowboys are kind of a middle of the pack run defense. They give up about 4.2 yards per carry. But the big thing is, like, of the 5 losses, 4 of them have seen just the opponent put up some big rushing stats. Cardinals had 222 on the ground. The Niners over here got 170 against them. Eagles got 109, but the Bills put up 266. The only other loss was that close one to Miami. So, I mean, Aaron Jones has been warming up the last 3 weeks. 127, 120, 111. He's been getting 20 or more carries in each of those games. So, give me that.
Nice.
Thank you. And I hope if we actually knock off Dallas this week, that this is exactly how that game against San Francisco goes.
Yeah, this would be an amazing performance.
Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, offense, we were saying kind of let Jones cook. Defensively, it's more of a just hope and pray because, Green Bay finished 27th in the defensive DVOAs, and Cowboys were top 10. They're the highest scoring offense this year.
Number 1 scoring offense. I think the 5th highest offense in yards.
Yeah,
but points are what matter, and they're number 1 in points.
Yep, and I mean their running game hasn't really been super crazy. Like Pollard hasn't had as good of a season as I think they were hoping.
But they also haven't played us.
Yeah, I mean fair. But CeeDee Lamb is going to be a big issue, and especially so if Jair is not able to play. So, how are you feeling going in this one?
This one's going to be tough for sure. Like you mentioned, it's going to be on the defense. They're going to have to play well. I don't know that Dak is the best quarterback in the league, but he is certainly top 5 right now. He's going to move the ball. CeeDee Lamb's a great wide receiver. Their offensive line is pretty solid. Pollard is not a terrible running back. He's not done as well this year as maybe people expected him to. But it's not like he's some scrub that, they just signed off the street last week. He's a solid running back. The defense is going to have to play clean, and, they're going to have to not give up touchdowns. Whether that's nice. Whether that's, forcing punts, turning touchdown drives into field goal drives, whatever it is. They need to limit the scoring as much as possible. Take a page out of the Lions book. They're the only team to play them in Texas and hold them under 30 points at home. They did something right. So that's definitely going to be tough. Their defense is good. Jordan Love has been in command of the Packers offense, the last 9 weeks, and particularly the last, 4 or 5 weeks. He's been really, really good. He's going to have to limit the turnovers. I know the fumble against the Bears was kind of fluky. The defender wasn't really going for a fumble, and the ball, ended up hitting him in the helmet, and, the ball hits helmet, it's going to fly somewhere.
Yeah.
But you know, you still can't have that happen. 2 hands on the ball, slide, dive, whatever it is, you can't have that happen. He's going to have to limit turnovers through the air. You know, this team is very opportunistic. I think the Cowboys are at plus 10 turnover differential, which is pretty good for a season. However, Aaron Jones has been playing really well. He seems like he might be healthy-ish. I don't know if he's fully healthy, but he seems to be playing a pretty healthy level. You know, Jordan Love has been great against blitz. He's been calling good, you know, protections, and he seems confident. So I think that if they go out there and they can keep the game close midway through the third quarter or going into the fourth quarter, I think they're going to be able to believe that they can win, and it's going to start to kind of go in our favor. I think if the game is close, Dallas will start to get nervous because they're the clear favorites, and you know they've had these other, you know, blowouts, you know, the last couple years in the playoffs, and I think they're gonna get worried.
Yeah, I think my big thing going into that one was, you know, if the pass rush can actually get to Dak, that would be the best way to get a shot in this one. You know, I'm not really expecting Green Bay to generate any turnovers. I think Bland by himself for the Cowboys has more interceptions than our defense, but you know, if they can hold them to a couple punts, you know, a couple field goals instead of touchdowns, I think Green Bay's offense is good enough to kind of score some points and, like you said, kind of keep the pressure on Dallas, especially later in the game if Dallas isn't pulling away. And, you know, at that point, puncher's chance. Green Bay can do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard because, like, if I had in my gut, I would say, you know, Dallas is the better team. They should win this game. But I can't predict a Dallas win, especially after this season on this channel. So, um, I think Green Bay will probably steal it in like a 28-24 type of game. At least I hope so, so I don't have to hear from everybody in our office. But I don't know. We'll find out.
By the way, our defense has only gotten 7 interceptions this season, and Bland has 6 pick sixes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But
So yeah, I'm not banking on us getting turnovers, although that's not to say that they won't. But I'm not going to bank on it. So they really just need to play clean and not turn it over themselves.
yep, yep. But yeah, I'm trying to think. So that's kind of the recap of all the Packers games. Couple quick thoughts too. You saw the international games came out yesterday, or at
I
least
did not.
or at least the host, I guess. Bears, Jaguars, and Vikings are all the London games, and the Panthers are going to be hosted in Munich, Germany. So there's a pretty good chance the Packers might be overseas again this upcoming season. All I'm asking right now is for the NFL, whoever the hell's doing the schedules, please do not make the Jaguars game the game that you send overseas, because I've waited 8 years for them to come back to Jacksonville. If I lose that one, I'm going to be sad. So, and also too, as a Seminoles fan, I gotta say it. Welcome back, Coach Norvell. We are more than happy to have you. That man got paid.
Yes, he did.
But yeah, and then as far as this channel goes, I am about to basically record, or after this recording, edit it real quick, get it uploaded, and then you'll see me on a plane up to Pennsylvania. So I'm going to pretty much have no internet or service for the next week, so there won't be a video next weekend. But when I get back, we'll record it, and you know, if we knock off the Cowboys, the Packers do, this weekend, then we'll talk about that game, and we'll also talk about the 49ers game since they'll absolutely be facing the 49ers if they do beat Dallas. If this is the end of the season, then we'll do some sort of season recap, maybe talk about the playoffs or something. We'll figure that one out. But in the meantime, stay tuned. And any last thoughts? over there.
Go Pack, go.
I think the man said it best. So go Pack, go, and see you next time.